The fluorescent lights in the emergency room buzzed like angry wasps above my head. I pressed the phone against my ear, watching crimson drops fall from my bandaged hand onto the sterile white floor. The construction accident had left me with 12 stitches and a splitting headache, but that wasn't the worst part of my day. "Haley, I need you to pick me up from St. Mary's Hospital," I said into the phone, trying to keep my voice steady. Her laugh came through the speaker like broken glass. "Simon, seriously? Today, of all days? I'm at the final cake tasting with Mother, and you're calling about some little scratch? Don't ruin the bride's mood over some minor crisis." The line went silent. She'd hung up on me. I stared at the phone screen, feeling something cold settle in my chest. Not anger, not yet. Something worse. Clarity. "Rough day, honey?" Rita, the emergency room nurse, appeared beside my chair with a clipboard. I'd known Rita since high school, back when she was Rita Kowalski, and I was just another working-class kid from the east side of town. "You could say that," I managed a weak smile. "My fiancé thinks a construction accident is less important than wedding cake." Rita's expression shifted, and she glanced around before leaning closer. "Simon, I probably shouldn't say this, but I've seen Haley at my gym lately. Late nights. With that friend of yours. Brandon something." My stomach dropped. "Brandon Carrow?" "That's the one. Big guy, owns that fancy fitness place downtown. They've been working out together. Real intensive sessions, if you know what I mean." The room seemed to tilt slightly. Brandon had been my best friend since college. He was supposed to be my best man in 3 weeks. "Thanks, Rita." I stood up, testing my balance. I think I need some fresh air. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. The autumn wind hit my face as I walked out of the hospital. My truck sat in the parking lot, and I realized I'd have to drive myself home with one good hand. Just another thing Haley couldn't be bothered with. Our brownstone apartment looked different when I unlocked the front door. Maybe it was the pain medication, or maybe I was finally seeing things clearly. The place screamed Haley. Expensive furniture, abstract art that cost more than my monthly salary, everything pristine and cold. A note sat on the granite kitchen counter. "Gone to Mother's for dinner planning. Don't wait up. H." I walked to our shared office and opened the iPad we used for household stuff. Haley always forgot to log out of her accounts. My finger hesitated over the message icon, then I tapped it. The first conversation made my chest tight. Brandon's name at the top, dozens of messages going back months. "Can't wait to see you tonight. Same place? Simon's working late again. Perfect timing. You looked incredible in those yoga pants. I couldn't concentrate on anything else." I scrolled down, my hand shaking. Photos. Lots of them. Hailey and Brandon's apartment, wearing things she'd never worn for me. Brandon's hands on her waist, her lips on his neck. The last message was from this afternoon, while I was getting stitches. "Wedding's in 3 weeks. Then what?" "Don't worry about Simon. He's so clueless he'll never figure it out. Besides, once we're married, I'll have access to everything. His construction company connections, his trust fund from his grandmother. Then we can do whatever we want." I set the iPad down carefully, like it might explode. Trust fund? I'd never mentioned my grandmother's inheritance to Haley. It was supposed to be a surprise, money I'd been saving to buy us a house after the wedding. She'd been planning this. Not just the affair, but something bigger. Something that involved taking everything I had. I walked to the bathroom and looked at myself in the mirror. 38 years old, still in decent shape despite the desk job I'd taken to please Haley. She'd wanted me to elevate my career, move away from hands-on construction work. Said it wasn't sophisticated enough for her social circle. Her social circle. The thought made me laugh, but it wasn't a happy sound. I pulled out my phone and called Frank, my old boss at Morrison Construction. "Simon, How's the corporate life treating you? Like a slow form of torture, Frank. Listen, I need a favor, and maybe my old job back. What happened? Let's just say I'm about to become single again. Can we meet tomorrow? Course we can. You sound like hell, though. That's because I've been living there for the past year. After hanging up, I walked back to the office and started copying files from the iPad. If Hailey wanted to play games, I'd show her what a real player looked like. My phone buzzed with a text from her. Don't wait up. Important wedding stuff. You wouldn't understand. I typed back, no problem. Take your time. But I wasn't going anywhere. I had work to do. The next morning, I called in sick to my corporate job and met Frank at our usual diner on Riverside Avenue. He looked exactly the same, weathered hands wrapped around a coffee cup, work boots that had seen every construction site in the city. You look terrible, he said as I slid into the booth across from him. Thanks for the pep talk. I showed him my bandaged hand. Yesterday was a real eye-opener. Frank studied my face while I explained the situation. Not everything, just enough to let him know the wedding was off and I needed my old life back. The job's yours if you want it, he said finally, but Simon, if you're planning something stupid, nothing illegal, nothing violent, just making sure some people get exactly what they deserve. Fair enough. When do you start? How about Monday? I need a few days to handle some personal business. After breakfast, I drove to Brandon's gym. Peak Performance Fitness sat in the trendy downtown district, all glass and steel and monthly memberships that cost more than most people's car payments. I'd helped Brandon secure the lease 2 years ago, using my construction connections to get him a deal with the landlord. The receptionist recognized me. Hey, Simon, here for your usual workout? Actually, I'm looking for Brandon. Is he around? He's in the back office with a client, private session. She giggled. He's been doing a lot of those lately. I thanked her and walked toward the main workout area. Through the glass partition, I could see into Brandon's office. Hailey was there, wearing expensive workout clothes I'd never seen before. She was stretched across his desk while he massaged her shoulders. Even from this distance, I could see this wasn't about fitness. I took out my phone and snapped a few pictures, then walked back to the reception desk. Actually, I'll come back later. Don't mention I was here, okay? I want to surprise him. The girl nodded, already distracted by her phone. My next stop was Hailey's parents' mansion in the hills. The Preston family had owned half the city's commercial real estate for 3 generations. They'd never liked me. I was too common, too working class, too honest about what I thought of their pretentious lifestyle. But they loved Hailey's wedding plans, a big society event where they could show off their wealth and connections. I parked across the street and watched the house. Hailey's car was in the driveway, along with a catering van and a florist truck. Through the large windows, I could see people moving around, probably finalizing details for the reception. My phone rang. Hailey. Simon, where are you? Mother wants to discuss the seating arrangements. At work. You know, that thing I do to pay for our life? Don't be dramatic. Can you come over after 5? We need to make some decisions. Sure thing. I'll be there. But first, I had another stop to make. Jenna Frost ran the most exclusive wedding planning business in the city. She was also Hailey's best friend and the person coordinating our entire wedding. Her office was located in a converted Victorian house downtown, decorated with photos of elaborate weddings and society events. Simon! Jenna jumped up from her desk when I walked in. What happened to your hand? Work accident, nothing serious. I sat down across from her. I wanted to talk about some last-minute changes to the wedding. Changes? Simon, we're 3 weeks out. Everything's been finalized. I know, but I've been thinking about the guest list, specifically about some people who maybe shouldn't be there. Jenna's smile faltered. What do you mean? I mean people who aren't really friends. People who might be attending for the wrong reasons. Simon, you're being very cryptic. Are you feeling all right? I leaned forward. Jenna, How long have you known about Hailey and Brandon? The color drained from her face. I don't know what you're talking about. Sure you do. You've been covering for them, haven't you? Making excuses, providing alibis. What I can't figure out is why. Jenna stood up abruptly. I think you should leave. In a minute. First, I want to show you something. I pulled out my phone and showed her one of the photos from the gym. Jenna's eyes widened, then narrowed. Where did you get this? Does it matter? The question is, what are you going to do about it? Simon, this is between you and Hailey. I'm just the wedding planner. No, you're not. You're her friend, her best friend, and you've been watching her make a fool out of me for months. Jenna sat back down slowly. What do you want? Information. I want to know everything. How long it's been going on, what they're planning, who else knows, and I want to know why you've been helping them. I haven't been helping anyone. I've been trying to stay out of it. That's not what your text messages say. I was bluffing, but Jenna's expression told me I'd hit the mark. You've been reading my messages? Hailey's messages. You're all over them, planning meetings, making excuses, even helping them coordinate their little rendezvous. So I'll ask again. Why? Jenna was quiet for a long moment. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely above a whisper. Because I thought if I helped her get it out of her system, she'd realize what she was throwing away. You're a good guy, Simon. You don't deserve this. But she kept going anyway. She kept going anyway. I stood up. Here's what's going to happen, Jenna. You're going to help me. Help you what? Make sure everyone gets exactly what they deserve, starting with the happy couple. Simon, I can't. Yes, you can. Because if you don't, everyone's going to find out that you've been an accessory to this whole mess. Your business, your reputation, your friendship with Hailey. All of it goes away. Jenna stared at me for a long moment. You're not the same person I met a year ago. No, I'm not. That person was an idiot who believed in love and loyalty and all that other fairy tale nonsense. This person knows better. What do you want me to do? Keep doing exactly what you've been doing. Plan the wedding, coordinate with Hailey, act like nothing's changed. But from now on, you report to me. And if I refuse? I smiled, but it felt cold on my face. Then you'll find out what happens when someone crosses me twice. That evening, I arrived at the Preston mansion fashionably late. The circular driveway was full of luxury cars. Hailey's mother had invited half her social circle to witness the wedding planning process. Everything was about appearances with these people. Mrs. Preston greeted me at the door with her usual mixture of politeness and barely concealed disdain. Simon, dear, we were wondering where you were. Hailey said you had some sort of accident? Nothing serious, just a reminder that some of us work with our hands. Her smile tightened. How authentic. Come along, we're discussing the seating chart in the dining room. The dining room was full of women in expensive clothes, all clustered around a large table covered with charts and lists. Hailey sat at the center, holding court like a queen. She looked up when I entered, and for just a moment, I saw something flicker in her eyes. Guilt? Fear? It was gone too quickly to tell. Simon, there you are. She stood and kissed my cheek, playing the loving fiancé for her audience. How's your hand? Better. Thanks for asking. I'm sorry I couldn't pick you up yesterday. The cake tasting ran so late, and you know how Mother gets when we're behind schedule. I nodded and smiled, letting her lie wash over me. No problem, I managed. Good. Now come look at this seating arrangement. I've put Brandon at the head table, of course, since he's your best man. She pointed to the chart, and I saw Brandon's name positioned directly across from the bride's chair. They'd be staring at each other throughout the entire reception. Actually, I said, I've been thinking about the wedding party. The room went quiet. Mrs. Preston looked up from her notes. What do you mean, dear? Hailey's voice was carefully controlled. Well, Brandon's been so busy with his gym lately, I'm not sure he'll have time for all the best man duties. Maybe I should ask someone else. Haley's face went pale. Simon, we've already sent the invitations. Brandon's already planned his speech. Has he? What's he planning to say? I don't know. It's supposed to be a surprise. I bet it is. Mrs. Preston cleared her throat. Simon, surely this can wait until after… No, I think we should discuss it now, in front of everyone. I looked around the room at all the curious faces. After all, the best man should be someone who really knows the groom, someone who's been there through everything, someone trustworthy. Haley's hands were shaking slightly. Brandon is trustworthy. Is he? Because I've been hearing some interesting stories lately. What kind of stories? This came from Mrs. Preston, who had a nose for gossip like a hawk. Oh, just things about his business, financial troubles, questionable business practices. You know how people talk. It was all lies, but I could see the effect on the room. These women lived for scandal, and I'd just given them fresh meat. I hadn't heard anything, said one of the guests, a woman I recognized as the wife of the city's biggest real estate developer. Well, it's probably nothing. But still, maybe I should reconsider the wedding party arrangements. Haley stood up abruptly. Simon, can I speak with you privately? Of course, darling. We walked out to the garden, away from the curious eyes and ears. As soon as we were alone, Haley's mask slipped. What the hell was that about? What was what about? Don't play dumb with me. You were deliberately trying to embarrass Brandon in there. Was I? I thought I was just being a concerned groom, making sure my wedding party was appropriate. Simon, what's gotten into you? You've been acting strange ever since yesterday. I looked at her, really looked at her. She was beautiful, I had to admit. Blonde hair perfectly styled, makeup flawless even after a long day of wedding planning. She'd always been the kind of woman who turned heads when she walked into a room, but now all I could see was the lie. Maybe I'm just nervous about the wedding, I said. It's a big step, you know? Promising to love and honor someone for the rest of your life? Of course it is. But Simon, we love each other. That's what matters. Do we? Do we really? She stepped closer and put her hand on my chest. Of course we do. Simon, you're scaring me. What's wrong? For a moment, I almost told her everything, almost laid it all out, the photos, the messages, the betrayal. But then I remembered her laugh when I called from the hospital, the coldness in her voice, the way she'd planned to take my inheritance. Nothing's wrong. I'm just tired. It's been a long day. Okay. She relaxed slightly. Why don't you go home and get some rest? I'll be late tonight. We still have so much to finalize. More cake tasting? Among other things. I kissed her forehead. Have fun. Don't work too hard. As I walked back to my truck, I pulled out my phone and sent a text to Jenna. Is Brandon meeting her tonight? The response came back quickly. Yes, his apartment, 9 p.m. Perfect. At 8:30, I was parked across the street from Brandon's building with a clear view of the entrance. At 9:15, Haley's car pulled up. She looked around nervously before hurrying inside. I waited another 10 minutes, then walked to the building. The security guard, an older man named Roy, recognized me from previous visits. Hey Simon, Brandon expecting you? Yeah, but I want to surprise him. Can you let me up without calling? Roy grinned. Sure thing. You know the way. I took the elevator to the 4th floor and walked quietly down the hall to Brandon's apartment. The door was slightly ajar, careless of them, but convenient for me. I could hear voices from the living room. Haley's laugh, the same one that had cut through me yesterday. Brandon's deeper voice, saying something I couldn't make out. I pulled out my phone and started recording, then pushed the door open just enough to see inside. They were on the couch. Haley curled up against Brandon's chest. She was wearing the blue dress I'd bought her for our anniversary. 3 more weeks, Brandon was saying. Then what? Then we figure it out. Simon's not going anywhere. He's too invested in this relationship to walk away now. What about the money situation? Once we're married, I'll have access to everything. His grandmother's trust fund, his business connections, all of it. We just have to be patient. I don't like lying to him. He's been a good friend. Haley sat up and looked at Brandon with an expression I'd never seen before. Cold. Calculating. He's been useful. But Simon's not like us, Brandon. He's small town, small-minded. He'll never understand what we have. And what do we have? She kissed him, long and deep. Everything we want. I'd heard enough. I backed away from the door and walked quietly back to the elevator. Roy nodded as I passed the security desk. Find what you were looking for? He asked. More than I expected. Back in my truck, I sat in the darkness and watched the building. At 11:30, Haley emerged and drove away. I waited another hour, then went home. The apartment felt different now. Like a stage set for a play I was no longer willing to perform in. I opened my laptop and started typing. Wedding cancellation notices, vendor cancellations, a very detailed email to Haley's parents explaining exactly why their daughter's fairy tale wedding was about to become a nightmare. But I didn't send any of it. Not yet. First, I had a few more preparations to make. Monday morning, I showed up at Morrison Construction wearing my old work boots and a smile that felt genuine for the first time in months. Frank handed me a hard hat and a cup of coffee that could strip paint. Good to have you back, Simon. We're starting on the Riverside development today. The one near the Preston properties? That's the one. Funny coincidence, huh? Hilarious. The work felt good. Physical, honest, straightforward. No hidden agendas, no corporate politics, no pretending to be someone I wasn't. By lunch, my hands were dirty and my back was sore, and I felt more like myself than I had in a year. My phone buzzed with texts from Haley throughout the day. Where are you? Your office said you called in sick. Simon, I'm worried. Please call me. We have the final dress fitting tonight. Don't forget. I ignored them all until 5 o'clock, then called her back. Simon, where have you been? I've been trying to reach you all day. Sorry, honey, I was feeling better, so I went for a drive. Needed some air. A drive? All day? I had some thinking to do. About us. About the wedding. There was a pause. What kind of thinking? The good kind. I'll tell you about it tonight. What time is the dress fitting? 7 o'clock at Madame Claire's. Simon, you sound different. Different how? I don't know. Happier, maybe? Maybe I am. See you tonight. I hung up and called Jenna. How's our blushing bride today? I asked. Nervous. She keeps asking if you've said anything to me about Brandon. And what are you telling her? That you haven't mentioned him at all. But Simon, she's getting suspicious. Maybe you should back off a little. Not a chance. In fact, I need you to do something for me. What now? I need you to arrange a little accident at the dress fitting tonight. What kind of accident? The kind that ruins a very expensive dress. Can you handle that? Jenna was quiet for a moment. Simon, that dress cost $8,000. I know, I paid for it. This is getting out of hand. No, Jenna. This is just getting started. That evening, I arrived at Madame Claire's boutique exactly on time. The shop was an exclusive place that catered to society brides, all crystal chandeliers and silk curtains and prices that would make normal people faint. Haley was already there with her mother and 2 bridesmaids, standing on a platform in front of 3-way mirrors, while the seamstress made final adjustments to her gown. She looked stunning, I had to admit. The dress was a masterpiece of lace and silk, with a train that seemed to go on forever. Simon! She beamed at me from the platform. What do you think? Breathtaking, I said, and meant it. She was beautiful. She was also a liar and a cheat, but she was beautiful. Mrs. Preston looked up from her phone. "Simon, dear, we need to discuss the final head count for the reception. Several people have asked to bring additional guests." "Of course they have. The more the merrier." "Wonderful. Now, about the seating arrangements." "Actually," I interrupted, "I brought something to celebrate." I pulled a bottle of red wine from my bag. "Vintage Bordeaux. I thought we could toast to the happy couple." Madame Claire looked disapproving. "Monsieur, we do not typically allow—" "Oh, come on," I said, already opening the bottle. "It's a special occasion." I poured wine into the champagne flutes that were sitting on a nearby table, then handed them around. Everyone took one except Hailey, who was still on the platform. "I can't drink up here," she said. "The dress—" "Of course. Here, let me bring it to you." I walked toward the platform, wine glass in hand. As I climbed the steps, I pretended to trip. The wine arced through the air in a perfect crimson stream, splashing across the front of Hailey's dress. She screamed and jumped backward, but it was too late. The white silk was stained from bodice to hem. "Oh no," I said, reaching out as if to help. "I'm so sorry. The step was— I didn't see—" Madame Claire was beside herself, dabbing at the dress with white cloths that only seemed to spread the stain. Mrs. Preston was shouting at someone. Me, the seamstress, the universe in general. The bridesmaids were taking photos with their phones, and Hailey was staring at me with an expression I'd never seen before. Pure rage. "Simon," she said quietly, her voice cutting through the chaos. "How could you be so clumsy?" "I'm sorry, sweetheart. It was an accident. I'll pay for the cleaning, of course, or a new dress if necessary." "A new dress?" Madame Claire looked like she might faint. "Monsieur, this gown was custom-made. There is no time for another before the wedding." "Then I guess we'll have to postpone," I said. The room went silent. "Postpone?" Mrs. Preston's voice was barely above a whisper. "Well, we can't have a wedding without a dress, can we? These things happen. Maybe it's a sign." "A sign of what?" Hailey had stepped down from the platform and was walking toward me, wine-stained silk trailing behind her. "That maybe we're rushing things. Maybe we should take more time, make sure we're really ready for this commitment." "Simon." Hailey's voice was dangerously low. "Can I speak with you outside?" "Of course, darling." We walked out onto the sidewalk, leaving the chaos behind us. As soon as the door closed, Hailey exploded. "What the hell is wrong with you? First the thing about Brandon, now this? Are you trying to sabotage our wedding?" "Sabotage?" "Hailey, it was an accident." "Was it? Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you're trying to ruin everything we've worked for." "Everything we've worked for? Or everything you've worked for?" She stared at me. "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means I'm starting to wonder what you really want from this marriage. I want to marry the man I love." "Do you? Because lately it seems like you want to marry my bank account." Hailey's face went white. "How dare you?" "How dare I what? Ask questions? Wonder why my fiancée is more interested in wedding planning than in her injured future husband? Wonder why she's always too busy to spend time with me but never too busy for her friends?" "Simon, you're being paranoid." "Am I? Or am I finally paying attention?" We stared at each other for a long moment. I could see her calculating, trying to figure out how much I knew and how much damage control she needed to do. "Simon," she said finally, her voice softer, "I know I've been distracted lately. Wedding planning is stressful, and I know I haven't been as supportive as I should be, but that doesn't mean I don't love you. Doesn't it? No, it doesn't. And if you can't see that, then maybe we do need to postpone the wedding." It was a bluff, and we both knew it. Too much money had been spent, too many invitations sent, too much social capital invested, but I called it anyway. "You know what? Maybe you're right. Maybe we should postpone." Her mask slipped for just a second, and I saw panic in her eyes. Simon, I didn't mean… No, you're absolutely right. If we're having doubts, we should address them before we make a lifetime commitment. I'm not having doubts, are you? I looked at her, really looked at her. Standing there in her ruined dress, makeup smeared, hair disheveled, she looked more human than she had in months. Almost like the woman I'd fallen in love with. Almost. Yeah, I said quietly. I think I am. The next morning, I woke up alone. Hailey had spent the night at her parents' house, probably strategizing with her mother about damage control. My phone had 17 missed calls and 43 text messages, but I ignored them all. Instead, I called Frank. I need a favor, I said. A big one. What kind of favor? The kind that might get us both in trouble if anyone finds out. I'm listening. I need access to the Preston development site. After hours, tonight. Frank was quiet for a moment. Simon, what are you planning? Something that's been a long time coming. That's not an answer. It's the only answer I can give you right now. Will you help me or not? Another pause. The security guard goes off duty at midnight. The gate code is 1847. You didn't hear it from me. Thanks, Frank. Simon, whatever you're doing, be careful. The Prestons have a lot of influence in this town. I know. That's why this has to be perfect. I spent the day making preparations. First, I drove to Brandon's gym and had a conversation with his landlord, a man named Peterson, who owed my construction company several favors. Then I visited 3 different banks, making withdrawals from accounts Hailey didn't know I had. Finally, I stopped by an electronics store and bought some equipment I'd need for the evening. At 6 o'clock, my phone rang. Hailey. Simon, we need to talk. I agree. Where? Somewhere private, away from all the wedding chaos. How about the construction site, the Preston development? It's quiet there. That's a strange place for a conversation. Strange times call for strange places. Meet me there at midnight. Midnight? Simon, that's… Perfect. We'll have all the privacy we need. She agreed, probably because she thought she could manipulate me better without an audience. After hanging up, I called Jenna. I need you to deliver a message to Brandon, I said. What message? Tell him Hailey wants to meet him at the construction site tonight. Midnight. Same place I told her to meet me. Simon, what are you doing? Giving everyone exactly what they deserve. This is insane. Someone's going to get hurt. Someone already did. Now it's time to balance the scales. I arrived at the construction site at 11:30 and parked behind a pile of building materials where my truck wouldn't be visible from the road. The development was going to be luxury condos, the kind of place where Hailey and her friends would live once they were married to men with money. The irony wasn't lost on me. I set up my equipment, cameras with night vision, audio recorders, everything I'd need to document what was about to happen. Then I found a position where I could see the entire site and settled in to wait. Hailey arrived first, at 5 minutes before midnight. She parked near the gate and walked carefully across the uneven ground, her heels clicking on concrete. She was wearing the black dress I'd bought her for her birthday, the one that made her look like a movie star. Brandon's car pulled up 10 minutes later. I watched through my camera as he got out and saw Hailey standing there. What are you doing here? His voice carried clearly in the still air. I could ask you the same question. Simon told me to meet him here. Simon told you? He told me you wanted to meet. They stared at each other for a moment, and I could see understanding dawn on both their faces. He knows, Hailey said quietly. How much? I don't know. But enough. Brandon looked around nervously. This is a setup. We should leave. And go where? Brandon, if he knows about us, we're finished. My parents, the wedding, everything. Maybe that's not such a bad thing. Hailey, I've been thinking about what we're doing and… Don't! Her voice was sharp. Don't you dare get cold feet now. I'm not getting cold feet. I'm trying to be realistic. Simon's a good guy. He doesn't deserve this. Simon is a construction worker with delusions of grandeur. He's not like us. What's that supposed to mean? It means he's ordinary, safe, boring. He was never supposed to be permanent. I felt something cold settle in my chest as I listened to her dismiss our entire relationship with a few casual words. Then why are you marrying him? Brandon asked. Because he has something I need: stability, security, a trust fund that will set us up for life. Us? Of course, us. You don't think I'm planning to stay married to him forever, do you? Brandon stared at her. Haley, what are you saying? I'm saying we stick to the plan. I marry Simon, get access to his money, then we figure out our next move. That's not a plan. That's fraud. That's survival. Brandon, your gym is 3 months behind on rent. My trust fund doesn't kick in until I'm 35. We need Simon's money to bridge the gap. And what happens to Simon? Haley shrugged. He'll survive. Men like Simon always do. I'd heard enough. I stepped out from behind the building materials, my footsteps echoing across the concrete. Men like Simon, I said, also learn to fight back. They both spun around, Haley's hand flying to her throat. Brandon took a step backward. Simon, Haley said, her voice carefully controlled. How long have you been there? Long enough. I walked toward them slowly, letting them see that I wasn't angry. I was something much more dangerous. I was calm. Long enough to hear about your plan. Long enough to understand what I really mean to you. Simon, it's not what it sounds like, isn't it? Because it sounds like you've been planning to marry me for my money, then dump me once you've cleaned out my accounts. Brandon found his voice. Simon, man, I can explain. Can you? Can you explain how my best friend has been sleeping with my fiancée for months? Can you explain how you've both been laughing at me behind my back? We weren't laughing. Yes, you were. Maybe not out loud, but you were laughing. At the stupid, ordinary construction worker who was too trusting to see what was happening right in front of him. I pulled out my phone and showed them the recording app. But the stupid construction worker learned a few tricks. Haley's face went white. You recorded us? Every word, along with the photos from Brandon's apartment, the text messages from your iPad, and a few other interesting pieces of evidence. What do you want? Brandon's voice was barely above a whisper. What do I want? I want you to understand what it feels like to lose everything that matters to you. I pulled out an envelope and handed it to Haley. Your parents will receive copies of everything tomorrow morning, along with a detailed explanation of why the wedding is canceled. Simon, please. I'm not finished. Brandon, your landlord will also receive copies, along with documentation of how you've been using gym equipment for non-business purposes. I believe that violates your lease agreement. Brandon's face had gone gray. You can't do this. I already have, but don't worry, I'm not completely heartless. I'm giving you both a choice. What choice? Haley asked. You can disappear. Tonight. Leave town. Start over somewhere else. Build whatever life you want together. Or you can stay and face the consequences of what you've done. Leave town? Haley's voice was incredulous. Simon, this is my home, my family, my friends, my career. Everything I've built is here. Then you should have thought of that before you decided to destroy everything I built. This is blackmail. No, this is justice. Blackmail would be if I asked for something in return. I'm not asking for anything except for you to disappear from my life. Brandon stepped forward. Simon, we can work this out. We're friends. We're friends. Past tense. Friends don't betray each other. I never meant for this to happen. But it did happen, and now you have to live with the consequences. I looked at both of them, standing there in the harsh construction site lighting. They looked smaller somehow, diminished by their own choices. You have until sunrise, I said. After that, everyone in this town will know exactly what kind of people you really are. I turned and walked back toward my truck, leaving them standing there in the darkness. Simon! Haley called after me. Simon, wait! I didn't turn around. I'd waited long enough. As I drove away, I could see them in my rearview mirror, still standing there, probably trying to figure out if I was bluffing. They'd find out soon enough that I wasn't. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I sat in my kitchen with a cup of coffee and watched the sun come up over the city. At exactly 7 a.m., I sent the emails I'd prepared. One to Mr. and Mrs. Preston, one to Brandon's landlord, and one to the local newspaper's society columnist. Then I waited. The first call came at 7:15. Mrs. Preston, her voice shaking with rage. Simon, what is the meaning of this filth you've sent us? Good morning, Mrs. Preston. I assume you've had a chance to review the evidence. Evidence? This is slander. Lies. I'm calling my lawyer. Please do. I'm sure he'll find the photos and recordings very interesting. Especially the parts where your daughter discusses defrauding me. You can't do this. The wedding is in 2 weeks. The deposits, the arrangements, all canceled. I've already spoken to the vendors. The line went quiet for a moment. Then, what do you want? I don't want anything, Mrs. Preston. I just want everyone to know the truth. The truth? The truth is that you're a vindictive, small-minded man who can't handle losing a woman like Hailey. You're right about one thing. I am small-minded. I believe in things like loyalty and honesty and keeping your word. Apparently, that makes me unsuitable for your daughter. I hung up and turned off my phone. I had work to do. At Morrison Construction, Frank was waiting with a cup of coffee and a knowing look. Rough night? He asked. The best night I've had in months. Good, because we've got a full day ahead of us. The Riverside project needs to be finished by Friday. I put on my hard hat and got to work. Physical labor felt good after months of corporate meetings and wedding planning. Every swing of the hammer, every load of concrete, every honest hour of work felt like I was rebuilding myself. At lunch, I finally turned my phone back on. 67 missed calls, over 100 text messages. I scrolled through them, watching the progression from anger to panic to desperation. From Hailey. Simon, we need to talk. This is insane. From Brandon. Man, you're making a huge mistake. Call me. From Mrs. Preston. Simon, perhaps we can reach an understanding. From Jenna. Simon, please call me. This has gone too far. And finally, from Hailey again. Fine, you win. We're leaving. I hope you're happy. I was, actually. That evening, I drove past Brandon's gym. There was a closed indefinitely sign on the door. His apartment building's parking lot was empty where his car usually sat. I drove past the Preston mansion. Hailey's car was gone from the driveway. They'd made their choice. The next morning, I woke up in my apartment now, and made breakfast for one. The place looked different without Hailey's expensive decorations and designer furniture. Smaller, maybe, but more honest. My phone rang. Jenna. Simon, are you okay? I'm fine, Jenna. Better than fine. Hailey left town last night, with Brandon. I know. Her parents are devastated. The whole social scene is talking about it. I imagine they are. Simon, what you did, it was cruel. Was it, or was it just consequences? Jenna was quiet for a moment. What happens now? Now I get back to living my life. The real one, not the performance I've been putting on for the past year. And the wedding? What wedding? There is no wedding. There never really was. After hanging up, I walked to the window and looked out at the city. Somewhere out there, Hailey and Brandon were starting over, probably blaming me for their problems, probably telling themselves they were the victims in this story. Maybe they were right. Maybe I was vindictive and small-minded and cruel. But I was also free. I picked up my phone and called Rita at the hospital. Rita, it's Simon. I was wondering if you'd like to have dinner sometime. Somewhere that doesn't involve wedding planning or society parties or pretending to be someone I'm not. I'd like that, she said. I'd like that very much. I hung up and smiled. For the first time in months, it felt genuine. Outside my window, the city was waking up. People were going to work, living their lives, making their choices, and dealing with the consequences. Some of them were probably lying to the people they claimed to love. Some of them were probably being lied to. But that wasn't my problem anymore. I had my own life to live now. My real life, and it was going to be a good one.